Hello and welcome to Designer Market Broadcast. No, this is not the way that I want these broadcasts to be conducted, neither today nor in the future, but this is what we've got to work with right this moment. Okay, my friends, so I'm really excited to see that Bitfarms held up incredibly well, given the market turmoil instigated by President Trump's really hyper-aggressive trade war with Canada, Mexico, and to an extent China. This is really not optimal for the financial markets, as evidenced by the fact that the financial markets did not go up by several percentage points in cheering admiration of a trade war being launched, but rather capitulated pretty significantly given the amount of uncertainty that this creates, and it really just creates a lot of turmoil, both in Canada and arguably here in these United States of America. Now, with all of that said, listen, I support the administration. I seek not to, substitute my judgment for theirs, but I am observing that financial markets, for whatever reason, didn't seem to appreciate what the administration has begun doing. Now, maybe that changes tomorrow. Maybe the markets will be up, thousands of points and markets will cheer. And as the trade war intensifies, markets may come around to seeing this as some wonderful thing, not just for the United States, but for Canada and for Mexico, for the whole world, right? Who knows? But as it relates to Bitfarms, which, by the way, I am always going to be partial to Bitfarms, even though I haven't yet taken a meaningful stake in the company. I'm always going to be partial to Bitfarms, come hell or high water, because they are acquiring Stronghold Digital Mining. And I am really starting to think, and I'm getting more and more excited, as you can probably tell, that shares of Bitfarms, from my perspective, man, I don't want to jinx anything, but I feel as if though we're getting to like the bottom. I don't know how much further lower shares of Bitfarms can go. Do you? Because the reason I say that is like, hey, you take a look at their operations, you look at what's happening insofar as the entire publicly traded Bitcoin mining ecosystem. There was every reason to believe that shares of a company like Bitfarms, which is not even that big of a company, right? A small boat in a large ocean. I would have had every reason to believe that shares would have absolutely gotten crushed. Yet they were not crushed. I think that's important. I also think it's really important to see that we're kind of getting to a point now where if there's going to be a significant economic downturn here in the United States, which is likely to occur, I'm not wishing that upon this country of mine. I'm certainly not hoping for it. But it seems increasingly likely that we're going to get some serious blowback on the economic front as a result of a lot of things taking place, which, yes, maybe in the long term are really good and healthy for the United States, but in the short term, it doesn't appear as if though it's going to be a fun ride, right? To put it mildly. So if we do in fact see the economy roll over, if in fact we do see a very dovish Federal Reserve, admittedly stuck between a rock and a hard place, seeing that inflation is beginning to kind of creep up again, but also seeing unemployment beginning to rise, hey, what do? Do you raise interest rates during a time when people are losing their jobs and the economy's rolling over, or do you actually start lowering rates even more than you have already? Irrespective of what the Federal Reserve will do, it's going to be interesting to see what Congress will do. It would not surprise me if we saw fiscal stimulus. Why fiscal stimulus? Because that is in the playbook, right? To try to, get the economy going again. Needless to say, if I were an elected official, hey, I don't want to face my constituents and tell them, yeah, I'm doing nothing to try to help you out while the economy's getting battered. I want to be able to say, you know what, I'm voting for some stimulus or for some common sense, tariff relief or whatever the phrase will be, right? So I see this as being potentially incredibly bullish for Bitcoin. Now, listen, Bitcoin does have a tendency to trade like a tech stock. Don't ask me why, it just does. However, I do think that if we see rates begin to continue to go down, if we see fiscal stimulus, And if Bitcoin is going to really step into its promise and purpose as being some sort of digital gold, and I say some sort of digital gold, and I don't mean that in a derisive way, I'm just saying, look, I've come to realize that Post-it notes and Bitcoin have a lot in common. Why? Well, Post-it notes, the glue that's used for Post-it notes, that little adhesive part of it, it was originally designed by 3M, so I understand, to be like this really incredible adhesive. It didn't quite work out that way. Then another 3M scientist years later started playing around with it and said, hey, this is like perfect for little pieces of paper that I could then put somewhere with little notations. Thus, Post-it notes were born, or so the legend goes. So Bitcoin was created, if I'm to recall correctly, as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. I don't recall the title of the white paper being a peer-to-peer digital treasury asset reserve, e-gold, whatever else. No, it was supposed to be some sort of like medium of exchange, it seems, right? Now, clearly, Bitcoin really hasn't quite done that, but it has very much so become this asset that is now held by ETFs. It's held by institutions. It's mined by publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies like Bitfarms. So, look if Bitcoin is going to be something of an asset that it can appreciate, right, in value, even when the economy is not doing so well, and maybe there's a lot of fiscal stimulus. I mean, I saw gold was up like 20, 30 bucks today. I mean, if Bitcoin is supposed to be a replacement for gold, I'd like to start to see Bitcoin start acting a bit more like gold. Again, not trying to sound like I'm hating on Bitcoin. I'm just trying to say, come on, Bitcoin, let's get to it. So with that said, I think this could be the perfect setup for a company like Bitfarms, whose mandate, as per Ben Gagnon, I'm paraphrasing a bit here, CEO of Bitfarms, he said multiple times now, listen, the only reason to invest in a Bitcoin mining company is not because you want to match the price performance of Bitcoin, but because you want to exceed the price performance of Bitcoin. I agree. So we're at about $1.14, $1.15, $1.13, right? $1 and change. To me, I don't know that shares of this company go much lower. Don't want to jinx anything. Absent there being some regulatory problem in Argentina, maybe there's some problem within the PJM system, right? There's a problem with the stronghold acquisition. There's some other issue that comes up, which I'm not anticipating. Absent something like that happening, I don't know that these shares go dramatically lower. Now, okay, look, if Bitcoin goes down to 60,000, does Bitfarms go down to 30 cents? I don't think so. Could be wrong, but I don't think so. I'm becoming increasingly optimistic that anyone who owns shares of Bitfarms and who has been considering dollar cost averaging down, I'm increasingly convinced this is probably one of those moments to do that. Not investment advice. I'm just giving you my opinion. To the extent you happen to be somebody who has not purchased shares of Bitfarms or in any substantive way, that's me. Hey, is this the moment where you start taking a more meaningful position? I think so. Am I ready to do so? Not yet, because the markets are in turmoil. And I think that if there's a significant dislocation in the financial markets generally, we could see some intraday trading activity with Bitfarms that pushes it dramatically lower, albeit in the short term. So I'm kind of speculating that we might potentially see that. That being said, I am growing increasingly optimistic about the setup from here forward. Yes, it's a cyclical business. No, I'm not sure that we're going to see a secular bull market in the price of Bitcoin. I still think it's going to be subject to the laws of gravity. We probably see a crypto winter at some point in the future. But this year, 2025, this is the year that if we're going to see a major spike in the price of Bitcoin, this is the year for it to happen. So, my friend, I am incredibly impressed by the fact that Bitfarms held up today. Let's see over the course of this week. Let's see what plays out here. Are there going to be some significant dislocations as this news really starts to sink in? As the economic impact of it, or potential economic impact of it, really starts to sink in? Are we going to see some major market moves, which just inevitably kind of pull Bitfarms down? And if so, does that present an even more compelling opportunity to get in? We're going to have to wait and see. But until then, let's stay positive, let's be great, and we'll see each other again. If not tomorrow, then certainly at some point again this week.